Hello everyone, welcome to the Med Route. In this video, I'm going to focus on giving you some insights on my game plan to ace my exams. I'm going to be talking about 3 core subjects in this video, including biology, chemistry, and math. The first I'd like to talk about is biology. And biology kind of has a stereotype that it's all memorization when it comes to the exam. You either know it or you don't. However, there are some strategies that you can utilize to help yourself out when you run into a problem or a question that you don't understand or you can't work your way through it with just memorization. The first approach is to look at the keywords in the problem statement and try to identify some roots in compound words. For example, if for some reason you can't remember what photosynthesis means, you can look at the roots and see that photo, meaning light, and synthesis, meaning to synthesize or create, come together in terms of plant biology in creating chemical energy from light energy. Another thing that you can do prior to the test to prepare is to make little acronyms or funny little sayings or songs that help you remember the difficult subjects. For example, on my most recent biology exam, we were learning a little bit about cell membranes, and one of the things that I found difficult is determining whether it's sodium or potassium that a cell wants to take in ion pumps. And the way that I ultimately remembered this is that when I think of potassium, I think of bananas, and we eat bananas, and when we sweat, we lose sodium. So that was just one funny way for me to remember how that mechanism works. In biology, it may be difficult, but oftentimes if you look at a question and think about it from a different perspective, it may help you work through it. So for example, if it's super specific, if you broaden your spectrum and look at it from a broader view, it may help you, or vice versa. If it's a very broad topic, think of one example that you learned in class and extend that out to whatever the question is asking. One thing I'll do on every test is star the questions that I can't get on the first time through and go back to them later on. I'll literally go back to those questions 3 to 5 times and just try to chip away and narrow down the number of questions that I have starred until I've completed the test to a level that I'm satisfied with. The next subject that I want to talk about is chemistry, and it's a completely different ballgame when you compare it to biology. Because in chemistry, you're focusing on the building blocks that ultimately form these complex systems in biology that create all the diversity that we see through those intrinsic properties as it becomes more complicated from species to ecosystem. Whereas in chemistry, you're focused down on the smallest parts of that system. In chemistry, when you're taking a test, you can always rely on looking back at those overarching rules that dictate molecular behavior and how everything works. In biology, like I said, there's so much diversity to where you can't necessarily predict how something's gonna behave. Additionally, it's easier in chemistry to draw atoms or molecules to help yourself remember how things interact, but in biology, it's more difficult to draw an entire cell or something more complex. Another recommendation that I have in chemistry is to always check your units. A lot of times you're working with a lot of compound units or you're doing a lot of conversions where it's kind of difficult to keep track. If when you finish and you look back on your answer and it doesn't make sense in context with the problem statement, look back through, because more than likely it's just a unit analysis error. In chemistry, whenever you get stuck, just go back to the knowledge that you learned in general chemistry. Go back to the basics, because a lot of times the interactions are just more complex examples, and if you apply those same theories or those ideas that you learned in general chemistry, they can work to more complex classes such as organic chemistry, physical chemistry, and biochemistry. The last subject that I'm going to discuss today is math. And when it comes to math, it's all about the applications that you see. Because more than likely on your homework, you're going to see problems that are related to the same concepts that you'll see on the test and very closely related. However, the applications on the test may be more complicated or just presented differently. Especially in math, one thing that you have to consider is that it really builds on itself. So all of the previous classes that you've taken before really add up to where you are in your math classes. This is also true in biology and chemistry, as you see this dynamic where things build on each other, but especially in math, you need to consider all of the different classes that you've taken up to this point. Another thing that should be in the back of your mind while you're taking a math test is your time. Obviously, you think about this in every test, but especially in math, one little error could skew your answer in the end. So it's important, if you have time, to check your work if the time permits. One thing I always do is focus on the written problems first, because those are going to be worth the most points in the end and they'll take the most work. Additionally, normally they're probably the most difficult. The last thing you want to do before turning in your test is to make sure that each one of your answers makes sense in context with the question being asked and magnitude of your answer. Thank you so much for watching. I hope these tips helped you and hopefully you're acing all your exams this term. If you have any questions or if you have any other exams that you're struggling with, just leave a comment below. Make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching again and welcome to the Med Route.